As a result of satisfying biological needs or impulses, certain behaviors are instinctively encouraged to bring the most efficient evolutionary advantage in order to meet certain conditions. Consider the following. If primitive emotions like anger, rage, and aggression can be fuel to your strength, it is in your best interest to be more simple-minded, as you can be provoked more easily in order to reach your most primitive state, even if you end up being an irritable, violent meathead. But as you can see, the Arrancar, who's of considerable stature and is only left with a jawbone for his hollow mask, fully matching the prior description, had actually made the cut for an elite position in Aizen's army. In fact, if his tattooed number is any indication, having great enough power is enough to make up for any weakness you may have. He is the Diez Espada, Yammy Llargo, who is best defined as a loud, uncouth, cocky, large bully of a man who relies on brute force to kill, believing that if he can simply charge in, rush his opponent, and crush them with his fists, he will win. It can be dangerous to be impulsive, as well as lacking the spiritual sensory awareness necessary to recognize an opponent's strength before it's too late. Strong as he is dense, the thinking is left to the quote-unquote higher-ranked Espada he usually accompanies, who also has a penchant for calling others trash. Yammy does have a sense of responsibility when it comes to obeying the higher-ups and the individuals he respects, which may come as a surprise given how much of a brute he is. Apart from that, the Diez Espada lacks many redeeming qualities, being someone that enjoys stomping on and ridiculing opponents he sees as weak, and who also wants to kill everybody who has ever irritated him. Since he can either be an unappreciative asshole, a blind angry asshole, or a complete power-crazed asshole, his reckless inclinations resulted in the brutalization of many lower-class soldiers who were on his side, demonstrating how his brutality is unrelenting and unmerciful even to allies. When he's not active, Yammy uses his capacity to store spiritual energy by eating and sleeping, and the power reserves he accumulates over time allow the Diez Espada to reach his full potential and enter his resurrection. It's raging time! And rage! The ranks of the Espada are not what we were led to believe. In fact, his spiritual power is so great that it qualifies him to become an Espada even before he's released, and through an outpouring of spiritual force, he moves up from the Diez Espada to the Cero Espada. In actuality, the Espada ranks are ranked from 0 to 9. Yammy Llargo apparently becomes the strongest of all the Hollow and has the most raw spiritual power of any Espada. What a twist! He grows to have a monstrous stature that resembles an enraged beast with the biggest show of physical strength and durability, the most destructive force and spiritual pressure, all fueled by incandescent rage. Anger makes him stronger, and the more furious he is, the larger and more powerful he becomes. The Cero Espada can even change into a greater form if he becomes even more enraged in this state. Yammy Llargo derives strength by giving in to his primal urges and needs, such as hunger and sleep, as well as the primordial emotions and instincts that give him the vigor and ferocity to battle for however long it takes. This is because, for his aspect of death, he is the Espada that represents rage. Sadly, nearly every battle he engaged in showed him to be a jobber. At the level of the lowest-ranking member of the Espada, he was shown to be prone to failure, to have no grasp of many things expected from a high-ranking Arrancar, and to be unable to combat threats that are beyond his scope. It would be unusual for someone of his class to suffer from that many embarrassing setbacks, but he in fact did. When Yammy encountered someone with captain-level strength, he frequently found himself outmatched and thrashed viciously. Yammy's only triumphs were over lesser or weakened opponents. At the time of his debut, when he beat up Chad, Orihime, and a dazed Ichigo, you might argue that this was one of the few triumphant moments he achieved. Otherwise, it's a long string of L's. He joined the Lost an Arm Club because of Ichigo, was manhandled by Best Girl, was trolled by Mr. Hat and Clogs, was even humiliated by a non-captain level person after being outsmarted, and even when he had started to have a good fight with his number counterpart, it was swiftly taken away by the party leader, leaving the guy that wants to fight with no one to fight. That's an L. He becomes twice as conceited as he builds up enough spiritual energy to reach his position at the top, as seen when he got another triumph over Chad plus others and made things difficult for a newly empowered Ichigo. But even though Yammy was the Zero Espada, Kenpachi and Byakuya had no respect for him as an opponent. They acted as though he was nothing more than a bother, and appeared more interested in battling each other than they did with him. The fact that the two didn't even finish him off, on top of his battle and defeat occurring off-screen, speaks a lot about how disrespected the Zero Espada was. Yammy may have been just thrashing and smashing around the battlefield, but he unwittingly served his purpose by keeping 3 captains from taking part in the battle. Although they didn't make a big deal out of it, it was discovered that they had serious injuries that required immediate medical attention, adding that they had difficulty even walking. So it wasn't as easy as they made it out to be. Whether or not he lived up to expectations or his position, Yammy saw himself as more powerful than others, and even referred to his fellow Espada as trash, since they were in actuality all ranked lower than him. Now, how much of what he said in a rage was actually believed by him as he struggled to come to terms with the passing of the Espada he held in higher regard than the others, as shown by his response to feeling Ukiura's death. He tried to hide his grief by thinking less of them in an effort to move on because he had unconsciously realized the impact of their loss. If Yammy had truly believed what he claimed about Ukiura, he wouldn't have asked for the permission of a quote-unquote lower-ranked Espada when he was in a state to release his full power. He obediently obeyed their orders though, and even more eagerly wanted to assist them in battle. Yammy respected Ukiura in some ways, and was drawn to him because of his power. He voluntarily accompanied his fellow Espada wherever he went because of this. Ironic though, Yammy was frequently absent-minded and had limited sensory perception, yet he instinctively followed the one with concealed strength. The last thing the Zero Espada saw, on the other hand, was his small, hollow puppy, who was at the very bottom of the food chain and only survived because it was kept by his side. He never gave the dog any consideration or care, but the truth is that Yammy tolerated him in a similar way to how another Espada did to him. Despite his lack of display, he, in a way, kept a specific place for his dog next to Ukiura. Beyond all of that terrible character, there was a being with compassion. Because of the likeness between Yammy and the previous owner, the tiny hollow dog was unwilling to leave. As a result, the raging beast was able to die peacefully with his dog at his side. Alrighty, what are your thoughts on Yammy Llargo? Comment, share, like, and subscribe. Cool. It's raging time! Dude, you're killing me here.